Hey boys, Valentine here from Belleville Rugby Resource. Today we're kicking off our summer series with a mystery All Black. We have the absolute privilege of talking to one of my heroes and one of my favourite players ever, double World Cup winner and All Black vet and All Black legend, Jerome Kaino, now based over in Toulouse in France. So sit down, enjoy as Mr. Wood and myself chew the fat with him. This series over the summer are going to be videos based around talking about our rugby and life and our life lessons and our rugby lessons. So not necessarily position specific, but just talking to guys who are in the rugby scene and talking about what they've learnt from the game as a student of the game. So boys, enjoy this one. I hope you're enjoying the resource that we're putting out there. If you do enjoy it, please send me an email and tell us what you enjoyed about it. And hopefully we'll see you over the summer. In the meantime, take care. Make sure you put sunscreen on, get out and have some fresh air, and make sure, most of all, you have some fun. Cheers, boys. Enjoy this one. Awesome. Here with another Belvo Rugby Resource workshop, and we're blessed to have Jerome Kaino, ex All Black, and now currently based in France. So just thanks heaps for jumping on and sharing some of your story and your wisdom with our lads.
My pleasure, bro. Thanks for having me.
All good. Bro, just to check in, how are you going? How are you finding lockdown? How's the family? And maybe share with the boys where you're at and what it looks like at the moment.
Mate, we're still on lockdown with the kids, my wife and three kids. I think we're on week 12 now, but we're lucky a couple of weeks ago they lifted the restrictions a little bit so we can drive around. But still no restaurants or public areas that are open like beaches. But no, me and my wife been trying to play school teacher, getting the kids to do their online classes.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, man, I give a lot of respect to those teachers. But no, we're enjoying it. It's been an awesome time for our family to spend some time together, and we have to try and come up with new ways to keep the kids motivated and keep every day fresh, because otherwise it just end up being like a Groundhog Day.
Yeah, I think you're not alone in thinking that teachers should get paid more for what they do,
Yeah,
what they deal with.
100%.
Nah, it's good. Right, just to dive into a bit of your background, obviously you're an extremely successful rugby player now, but where did it start for you? How did you get into rugby? Can you remember what age you started playing? And
Yeah.
what did you enjoy about it as a youngster?
Yeah, man, I think for New Zealand standards, I started quite late. I started around under 15s, under 16s.
Oh, wow.
I used to play basketball and rugby league before that. Um, One, because my mum didn't want me to play contact sport because she was worried I'd get injured. I was a skinny beanpole kid back in the day,
Yeah.
and yeah, she was really worried that I'll get hurt. So it took a while for me to convince my mum. So all I did was play basketball, volleyball, did a bit of athletics, and then about under 12s, I played rugby league for the Papagris Eagles, and but yeah, that wasn't as full on. So played that for a couple of years, and then found out that all my mates had joined the Papagris High School under 14 teams, and just found myself wanting to go play with my mates. So had under 15s, under 14s. My parents finally let me go and play rugby, and then yeah, so I decided to play under 14s, under 15s.
Nice. Yeah, no, I would have thought I thought I was late. Like I went to under 13s, I think. I had to play
Mm,
soccer. I'm the same, bro. I think it's that protective
yeah,
Samoan mother is like, nah,
yeah,
you need to go and play a man's sport. So
yeah,
I played soccer until I was 13 and then finally convinced her to let me go play. Same as you, basketball, volley, all the sports
yeah,
involve getting smashed. um,
yeah.
so obviously a big part of playing rugby for you at under 15s and 16s was playing with your mates. Is that right?
Mm, yeah.
And has that changed for you? Or how does that work? I know that now it's a job and it's more of a job, it's still a passion, but how does that work? Does that change for you? It's still about playing with your mates and having fun.
Yeah, it's still a part of it's playing with my mates, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. But when I first started playing, yeah, it was all about having fun with your mates you hang out with, trying to replicate what your heroes did on TV that you saw the night before or that weekend before, and just trying to be like them. But no, it's part enjoyment. I really enjoy it, but also another part of it is just the motivation to be the best I can be. To be better than I was yesterday. So once you get to the pros, your motivation starts to change once you get a family, and then. But yeah, the foundation of all of it's definitely enjoyment and being in the sheds there with your mates.
Yeah, man. And so it is that, like as you say, it's quite rewarding grinding with your mates, and then when you get the
Mm,
reward, it's that's the
mm.
way to go. In terms of, I guess, you realizing that you had some talent and some potential in the sport, can you remember the first time that you realized, oh, I'm actually pretty good at the sport and I could make it like a good crack of it, and what it kind of meant to you at that time?
Uh, I would say around under 16s.
Yeah,
I used to play in the backs early on. I was a fullback centre because I was skinny and I was pretty quick. But yeah, I thought I had a bit of potential. Like heaps of my mates and coaches would always compliment you, and you get a big buzz out of that when you start to get a few awards at those levels, and that's where for me the self belief came in, and I really started to think if I really take this seriously, then maybe I could make something out of it. But yeah, you can never underestimate the power you give to a kid when you compliment them or encourage them towards a certain direction.
yeah. Nice. So under 16s. In other words, your second year of rugby, you realised you were pretty good. And then from there were obviously opportunities to go on in terms of education. It's a little different
Mm,
here in Ireland. You can't do that as much, but for you, that
yeah,
was the pathway that opened up.
yeah. No, that was a huge blessing for me to go from Papakura. I love Papakura. It's my hometown. It was taught me everything I knew, but getting the opportunity to go to a more developed rugby school, St Kitts, it was awesome for me in terms of structure. Pulling my head in a bit. At Papakura, I wasn't up to much during class, and all I wanted to do was just go there for sports. But going to St Kitts was huge just to open my eyes towards the opportunities that were out there, how serious the kids take their sport, their schoolwork. And yeah, I think for me that catapulted me into knowing what opportunities were out there and how serious to take them.
Yeah, nice. And as an opportunity in terms of rugby, is there a point where it switches from like, oh, I'm just doing this for fun to play with my mates to, oh, this is an opportunity to earn, well and provide for my family and stuff? Or did that come later on in your career?
No, I think it came when I moved from Papakura to St Kitts. I realized that there was a huge difference in how serious they take their sports. At St Kitts, I didn't really get we didn't really get told off too much at rugby trainings. It was more only if you were mucking around. But at St Kitts, everything was you got given homework. I think the schools back then were ahead of their time. Like they were videoing other schools' games and would have to do homework. So if you turned up and you didn't know what you're doing, you'd get told off. So I knew then that I had to take this quite seriously, and I wasn't just passing the ball around or joking around with your mates and having fun. It was more, okay, if we can nail this, then we'll have a lot more fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And do you, sorry Val, did you think that the discipline that you learned from the like the school environment in the classroom, around the corridors, from all your teachers and your mentors, do you think that was a big learning that you could take into your into how you approach the rugby?
Yeah, 100%. Going from Pep Crib to St Kitts, so I learned the difference in how those private schools operate, and respecting the senior boys and making sure you buy your time. So when you get there, you know how to operate. So when I got into the professional environment, I kind of knew how to hold myself and what I needed to do, not to speak out of turn, how to work. So yeah, a lot of the teachers at St Kitts and some of my senior mates that I really I'm close mates with, yeah, taught me a lot on into preparing me for when I got to the academies and also the early stages in the Auckland environment.
Nice.
Yeah, great question there, Andy.
Mm.
Yeah, look, like you say, I think like rugby has heaps of lessons to teach you, but within the school system, and if you are wanting to take it and progress it into a career, as you say, you sort of learn those things like earning the right to be able to offer an opinion, or like
Yeah,
working hard and letting your actions be
yeah,
what you're known by, as opposed to like always piping up and always having
yeah,
an opinion. It's like you've got to earn your right, as you say.
yeah.
Nah, that's
Also, one different thing is to what the kids have now is that we didn't have too much social media back then. So a lot of the kids are getting like pumped up before they get to the professional teams. So those guys in the professional teams would already have made the assumptions of what that kid's attitude is like because he's already all over social media. But yeah, you're definitely right. Um, the way you hold yourself definitely speaks volumes, and letting your actions speak for uh, yeah, and let other people make the judgments off your actions.
And just a quick one there, Jerome, as well, because I know like back in New Zealand, all the big games now are shown on Sky Sports and that. And
Yeah.
over here in the cup competitions, well, the senior cup anyway, they're shown on TV. Do you think that's different? Will that affect? Do you think that has an effect on the young players coming through now, like all that early exposure? Because really well packaged on Sky, and they are
Mm,
they are
yeah.
pumped up and hyped up. Is that a
Yeah.
difference from your day coming through? Because it's been on TV here for
Yeah.
quite a while now. I've always wondered whether that's affected how a lad's development, or accelerated, or you know.
Oh, I think it'll affect it in a positive way. Mentally, I think the kids need the right support for when they get to the in terms of the pressure and because of the pressure and the media attention, everything's just amplified. But I think the exposure that they get at high school level, I think it just elevate the level of skill and how the kids want to be better. Because they know they're on TV, they definitely want to be at their best, and and so for me, it's only going to be a good thing that more games are on televised, more games that have exposure. I think it's just going to improve the level of schoolboy rugby in Ireland or in New Zealand, and I think we've seen that through the kids that are coming through. We've got some freaks coming through, and they're only like 18, 19 years old. So I think it's a good thing.
Cool.
Just as long as they're getting the support that they need in terms of mental well-being and how they cope with the pressures.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
what I'm hearing there is that it's a good introduction to the pressures that can come, and it's good exposure, but it goes hand in hand with good support.
Mm.
As you say, good support structures and making sure that, like you say, we're educating these guys on the mental side of the game, prepping them well to perform, and then giving them the freedom to express themselves. That's the best way to be seen.
Yeah.
No, it's
Well
good.
said.
Bro, I'm just going to switch tact a little bit there, and then just it's Samoan Language Week, and
Yeah.
there's proud Samoans, especially Andy there.
Mouse.
Mouse.
Just talking about like culture and values, and again, like obviously for us it applies in terms of our heritage. It's the same here. Like I often think that sometimes the lads don't embrace some sides of who they are, and I think that it's something that you can get a huge amount of value and rich source of empowerment and identity in. For you, those cultural values that have held you in good stead, I guess, in your career and in life.
I think one for me that I learned off my dad. My dad he's a man of a few words. He hardly ever speaks, but he always just, like if something needed to be done, he'll do it before he'll tell anyone else to do it or tell us kids to do it. So for me, I just saw him let his actions speak, and I grabbed that. I loved the way he operated that way, and I think I take that through my rugby as well. I'd rather, I'm not a big talker, I'm not a big speaker, but I'd rather let my actions speak. Also, another one through our Samoan culture, I think knowing that the gap or the distance you need from your elders, I think it works in a positive way, but then it works in a negative way in some ways in the professional environment because it's good to have a good working relationship with your coaches, but then there's a certain time when you need to know that gap and know that respect that you need to have for them. Uh, I really I drive that for myself. I really have a good relationship with my coaches that I've had, but at certain times you need to respect that coach player relationship, and we have that in the Samoan culture. Like you have a good relationship with your parents, your elders, the chiefs, but you got to certain times where you need to respect that gap and know that they're in a more dominant position. But I think in a negative spin that you can put on it is that it stops a lot of our island boys from speaking up when they need to in meetings, and when they have some really valuable opinions to say, they still hold that gap between them and speaking up to their elders or their coaches. So I think our culture or our boys need to find that good balance between respecting their values from their culture, but also knowing how to flip it and use it as a strength.
Yeah, yeah, I like that, and it's probably the opposite here. Like the lads are so friendly, and and to be fair, like the way my style would be is like I get on well with them because I like to coach like side by side type of thing. But then, as you say, there's an element of like, particularly in a coach setting, the coach player relationship, where you've got to, there's a respect there that you've got to go. Actually, at the end of the day, like if they make a call and I don't like it, I just got to fall in line.
Respect it, yeah.
Yeah, which is part of I think it's part of that team culture as well, and we learn that. As you say, there's always there can be a negative side if you take it too far,
yeah.
and either way. But as you say, like I think there's that dynamic where you've got to obviously look out for yourself and know what you stand for, but at the same time, like it's always about the team first, and I think that's something that I see and have seen for you as well, like as a player, and you've always been actually, bro, it's team first, and in that you're listening to the coaches what they stipulate, and then if you can serve them the best, that's when we see like the best rugby out of you, eh?
Yeah, 100%. That's
and I love what you said about your dad, because you can definitely see that coming out in the way that you've played and led. Like you're the enforcer, mate. You're the guy who goes and does it. Doesn't ask someone else to do it unless you've done it. You've done it already, and you're like, "Oh, come and join me." So,
thanks, man.
No, that's class. Again, similar to that, bro, life lessons that you've learned on the field that you've taken off the field or learned within the rugby setting. I'm sure it's taught you heaps.
Man, so many lessons that I've learned from my coaches and team environments. But I think being in so many teams in different environments, I think the number one, the common theme that I've found throughout the environments that I've had is just being better people every day. I think everyone, especially with the professional environment these days, it's everyone's so caught up on competition and being the best they can be and winning. And I think Wayne Smith, Steve Hansen, and the All Black coaches that we had there, that's what they drove, is that the great people make the environments better, and then the environment will make the winning culture come. So I think for everyone that I've played with, the number one thing that they focus on when they come into the team environment is just bring your best self into the team. Make sure that you develop your person first, and then the player will come. So I think for a life lesson for me, I try not to carry around the rugby tag wherever I go, even though people in France see you as a rugby player. Try and push forward who I am first, and get them to meet me instead of the person that they probably see on TV wearing the black jersey or the blues jersey. So I think it's to try and push better people pushing better rugby players.
Nice, mate. I love that. And actually, on that note, and I didn't put it there, but like obviously, part of a really successful All Black era, and even at Toulouse, you've found some great success there, and it was some exciting rugby to watch last year.
That was awesome.
Yeah, savage.
What parts of those cultures do you think, like in team cultures, what are some of the standout pieces of those team cultures that sort of define them or have made them successful? Obviously, you've touched on one already around, better people investing in the person that you're creating. And it's a good point to make that, Jerome Kaino is not just a rugby player, he's a father, he's a husband, he's a brother. I love that holistic view of it. But is there anything else that, are there any some standout like characteristics for the team environment? Like what sets Toulouse aside from every other French team? What set the All Blacks aside from all the other teams?
Oh, that's a good question, because I tried, when I first came to Toulouse, I tried to bring a lot of my ideas that I found in New Zealand and team culture sense to bring them here and try and make them work. And I knew straight away that it wouldn't work. I think if you build the people and you get the team environment going, I think each team culture or each environment's got to have their own DNA. Do you understand that? I think you build it within that group. I don't think it works if you try and get a different culture and bring it into a certain, like the Crusaders team culture would never work in the Blues environment, or the Blues environment would never work in the Chiefs, because they all have their own DNA or something that makes them tick. So I don't know if you can get into detail about it, but I think what worked for the Toulouse team is that the French boys don't like to work too much on structure. They like to play what's in front of them and express their skills. But then off the field, they operate totally different to what we did in New Zealand. So I knew straight away that what we did in New Zealand would never work. So they like to have fun, build team culture that way off the field. But then when you get on the field, it's so uncompromising that they just love to work for each other. And I was just lucky that I came to Toulouse at the right time, because they'd been building this young team for a few years, and I just picked it right, and I got lucky.
Yeah.
No. Just one question for you there, Jerome. Sorry to cut across you. Yeah, just how did Toulouse pitch it to you? Because obviously you were coming with some pretty unique credentials, and I'm sure you got. There's a lot of other clubs would have, obviously expressed an interest. How did Toulouse pitch it to you to make you? So it seems like a perfect fit. Do you know what I mean? It really did.
I've been talking to Toulouse since 2011. So after the 2011 World Cup, I was pretty keen to come to Toulouse. And obviously with my connection with Luke McAllister and Joe Takori, who were already over here, Census Johnson, I'd done a lot of research on the club, and obviously they've got a huge reputation in New Zealand and around the world with their success. But I chose not to, because it was too far for my young family, and then I chose to go to Japan at that time. But I think my management and I still kept close contact with Toulouse, and also building my relationship with Thierry Dussutois every time I got to play against him or got in contact with him. So when I did decide to look around the second time, Toulouse was pretty keen as well. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Also, they have an international school here for my kids as well. So
nice.
That was one box ticked for my wife. So it was awesome.
100%. No, cheers, man.
Hearing, I heard a few really good things. The first thing I'd mention is it's actually something we struggle with as New Zealanders, and because the All Blacks have found such great success. I was going to say we've found great success. You guys have found great success. We often, and when you do that, it's only natural to want to replicate that wherever you travel, wherever you. And I guess in one way, schools and teams and players engage with coaches from New Zealand because that's what they want to get from them. Like it's that New Zealand factor. But as you say, And I had a really interesting conversation. I've had it with Lima and I've had it with Nasi. Same old, like you go into these new contexts and you're like, oh, I want to bring all this stuff that, done in New Zealand. It's worked really well. But what you do in a way is you actually write off everything that they do, that work.
That they've worked for, yeah.
And it's not to say that everything they do is good, but it's to acknowledge that you're going to a new place. And it's that respect thing that you're talking about. You don't just show up at somebody's house and tell them that their kitchen is not laid out right. I'm like, mate, where's the toaster there? Your toaster should be over there, and your kettle is. So I think I really like that. That, I guess that humility that you approached it in, and for our boys in terms of that being relevant to them, they'll learn stuff that works for them at our school, but they've got to acknowledge that when they go to other contexts, whether it's a representative level or they go to club rugby, that they can't be the know-it-alls that, oh yeah, our school is really good at this, so we should try this. It's absolutely take your experience and your knowledge, but don't be the guy that jumps to the top and goes, nah, this is how you should do it.
100%. I learned that the hard way when I went to Japan the first time, and just try to change everything that they had, and realized straight away that I had such a big ego that I needed to drop it and just bring my experience and make it work within what they've already got, and make it better instead of trying to come in and change it all. And I knew that early on, and I had it in the back of my mind when I came to France as well. So I was quite glad that I had to learn from one of my mistakes, but it worked out.
Yeah, and that's that humility aspect as well, because like you say, it's one thing experience something, and then it's another thing being able to take that experience, negative or positive, and actually learn from it and change the way that you approach things. But I think there's another piece of work there for any player that comes out of New Zealand and goes overseas in terms of their transition. And I'm sure Aiden Clark will be jumping up and down going, yeah. But I think it's that acknowledgement, like you say, you had to learn it the hard way. But it says a lot about you again in terms of your approach and your humility and going, actually, that doesn't work. I've got to try something else. And I've got to come in and acknowledge what they do well and see where we can add value as opposed to take over. That's another tangent. Sorry, guys. And then the other couple of things I was hearing when you were talking about going to Toulouse, like stylistically, they're the white Fijians, man.
Oh, 100%. I bet you they've got such a young team, that French team, and even some of the players that didn't make their French team, they're all quite young, and they've got some crazy talent. So if they can get the right coaching setup or the right strategy, they could be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, mate. 2023, everyone's touting France. Watch out! It's a storm, mate. That's what they say. So you're not wrong, mate. I know we're taking up precious time with your family, so we'll a couple more questions if that's all right.
It's fine.
Just thinking about I guess the boys again will want to know about a little bit more about your All Black experience. Can you kind of sum that up for yourself? Obviously, it was hugely formational in the player that you've become and your career. But for a kid on the other side of the world, what's it like being in the All Blacks?
Far out. For me, I used to pinch myself every time I would go to training or even go into training camp with those guys. What you learn and the level that each training's, the level that you have to be at each training it's crazy. But I guess it's, I think the standard's been there for years, from back in the day, how people respect the jersey and how you need to hold yourself at training, how you need to keep the standard up. But I think the difference for me, being in there 2004 and then being in there through 2008 onwards, I think the difference for the All Blacks and the edge that they got was Gilbert Enoka and the mental training that the boys did. I think we did a lot of physical training, but just as equal would do as much mental preparation, mental visualization for big test matches. So so the boys were ready. So I think the mental side of the game was a huge part of my learning and how I approach the game now.
Nice. No, that's good, and it's a great. I guess it's great acknowledgement of the off-field stuff
Mm.
that is involved in footy, but also, as you say, Gilbert, bro, he's the mastermind, mate.
Mate, it's crazy how just little things that he brings in makes a huge difference in your physical performance or your how you hold yourself at trainings when times are tough. So yeah, it's I think it's underrated, the mental side of the game.
Yeah. And I think that, like, again, and I always go back, like, okay, what does that mean to a 14, 15-year-old player? I think, like, and there's an increased awareness, but I think that it just reiterates that it's so important to address, like, the mental side, the way that you think, not just about the game, about life, and then the whole behavioural side in terms of, bro, what you do off the field counts. It's not just what you do on the field with a rugby ball. It's like how you conduct yourself around adults, how what you're like at home. If you help out at home, how willing are you to help out at home? Like that sort of stuff, or not cutting corners, like all of that stuff. It just, what you're saying to me is like, man, bro, all that stuff that Gilbert goes on about and teaches is all applicable to all the little things in your life.
Everything, yeah. So, for example, a performance mental prep session would have is so me and the loose forwards would have a meeting each week, twice a week, and we would go through all the what ifs. Say we were playing Australia on Saturday, we would go through all the what ifs that could happen in the game. So we'd go through a sin bin or even two sin bins. Australia scored 3 tries in the first 10 minutes. How do we react? And we'd also go through footage on times when we'd be under pressure and look at our triggers on when we go into our shower and how we can get out of it and how we know when we're going into our shower. So just some insight into how we'd mentally prepare for games. Would always go through all aspects of what could happen in the game and how we can overcome them. And to be honest, like I think 80% of the time would be in those situations when we get to the weekend. And for me, I'd be like, bang, we spoke about this. Let's do it. And so people have their triggers to snap out of those slumps. So I think Brad Thorne's trigger when he got into like the panic mode, he'd just get a bottle of water and he'd splash his face, and then he'd click on. So for me, it was just to clap my hands and just focus on the next task and make sure the next task is positive. So yeah, those meetings were really meaningful and gives you some insight onto some of your habits that you have. And sometimes you might not even notice them, but when you really look into it, you watch some games and you think about games, you'd be like, oh, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
And those things could be like a negative trigger.
Yeah, that's good. So I heard a couple of things, again, some nuggets, absolute nuggets of gold there. So one of the repetitive themes that keeps coming up is players are telling us, make sure you've prepared for it mentally, like you've been there before in your head. It's that visualization. Yeah. So when you get there, nothing's a surprise. You're like, nah. As you say, you're like, I've prepped for this. We know exactly what action is required to serve this and solve this. And then the other thing I really like is around that reset, that mental reset. So sometimes it's a breathing exercise, but as you say, it's like a tick. And I always think about Inception when they spin the spinning top, and that's his totem. It reminds him of if he's in reality or in the dream. And for like, on the field, it's like, okay, like you say, it's a clap or it's a whatever it is. It's a physical action which awakens a mental side of things. And you're like, okay, I need to go into this chapter or be this guy on the field right now.
And that reset's important. You go.
Oh, sorry, Jerome. I was just going to ask, before you clap or have that physical action, did you let's say you made a mistake or there was a mistake made, how would a player like own that and then flush it before they move on? Was there a process around that as well?
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge that you've made a mistake. You don't really get too down on it. You just go, damn, drop that ball. Next action is going to be a positive one. But we used to always say it's important to acknowledge that you're in that slump or you're just drifting through the game. You need to acknowledge it straight away to reset and then go on. I've found myself in games where I didn't want to acknowledge it. I'm like, no, I'm not really doing anything wrong, but you're not really acknowledging that you're just drifting through the game, being a passenger. That could be one way that you'll be like, oh, I'm not really being effective here. So you don't have to make a mistake to reset. Sometimes you you'd just be coasting through the game, not really achieving anything. That could be a time where you can reset. Just be like, man, need to get effective here. Let's make a make a positive action or something.
Nice.
Yeah, because I think sometimes young players, and particularly like 14, 15-year-olds, they know that the momentum's going against them, and things feel a bit weird, and I think that's, geez, it's going against us here. You know what I mean? How can I, how can I change it or change the momentum, get it back on our side? And I guess that's it. It's acknowledging, well, okay, this is actually happening now. How do we let's own it, and then let's physically choose the next positive action to get ourselves out of it.
And it's important to acknowledge it to the group as well. If the whole team aren't getting momentum, to get everyone else on board to reset and go as a group. Because sometimes if it's not going your team's way and you reset yourself, you could be working by yourself without the other troops on board.
Yeah. And did you have a like a pecking order to do that? Did you report to someone, or did you, if you just if you saw it, you said it?
Yeah, if you saw it, you said it. If you felt it, you said it, and everyone acknowledges it.
And everyone respected your point of view, and that was it. We move on now. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
if you felt it, then someone else would probably be feeling it too. So it's just good to acknowledge and just flush it right then and there.
Yeah.
Nice.
I hear, so we do a lot of work with the boys off the field, particularly around like just mental health, as you say, like trying to support them, particularly at a time like this in terms of the COVID stuff. We talk about some of the ideas is around like owning stuff or whatever it is, or owning that feeling. It's like, okay, if you're not feeling great, own that, because the longer, as you say, the longer you put it off, the more likely that feeling is going to own you, as opposed to owning that feeling, because you can move on. Once you've got acknowledged it, you can move on. But if you keep fooling yourself, you're like, nah. But then I also hear there's a definitely an element of understanding that, bro, it's not about you as a person. It's about bettering the performance of the team. And it's like, bro, I'm not attacking you. I'm not giving out to you as a person. I'm saying we all need to improve in this aspect. And once you can go, oh, don't take it personally. It's like, oh, crap. Then you can move on to the next job.
Yeah. No, that's one thing that we should always have in a team environment. They always want to get better. Is nothing's ever personal. It's all for the better of the team, to make the team better. And once you get everyone on board, then it's a pretty good feeling.
Nice. Like I said, we've taken heaps of your time. Just the last little thoughts there, or last wrap up. Just was keen to ask about off-field interest. Obviously, like you say, you're defined by more than rugby, and so I was keen to let the boys know, what else does Jerome Kaino do with his time, and obviously being a dad.
Yeah, back in New Zealand, I'd been doing a lot of surfing. I love a bit of surfing. I've been trying for the last 5 or 6 years. My brother-in-law's a gun. He loves it. But I just don't get out to the beach enough to be that good. And plus my paddling endurance horrible. So I've been trying to get to Biarritz out the Atlantic side to get as much surf in, but still not where I should be for the amount of years that I've been doing it. But during lockdown, me and my daughter hopped on the keyboard to learn an instrument, and I've been jamming on the ukulele a little bit just to learn a few songs.
Have you got us a tune there? You've got a little tune.
Hey, Oh, mate, I've got a couple of chords, so I wouldn't say a tune.
Nice, mate.
Been on YouTube's Our Best Friend, how to play songs with just 4 chords.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Fantastic.
It's amazing. But my memory is pretty bad. I'd learn a song one day and then the next day I'd just forget it.
It's all about muscle memory, bro. It's all about feel. What do you got? Any last questions or last thoughts?
No, mate. Geez, no. Appreciate your time, Jerome. That's fantastic, man.
My pleasure.
And any last parting words from you, Lomi, for 15 to 18-year-olds, or even actually there's some younger guys too, bro, 13 that'll be watching this, pretty engaged, and some of it they might have been lost in. But yeah, any last parting words for you as a hero, mate?
Yeah, man.
Mate, just enjoy your footy as much as possible, because if you enjoy it and it's your passion, then all the hard work and the sacrifice that comes with it will be a piece of cake. Just never lose that enjoyment for your games and for rugby, because once that's gone, then everything seems to be a chore. But just keep that fire burning and enjoy it as much as possible. Enjoy your coaches, enjoy your teammates, because when I retire, I think the thing I hold closest to my heart is that camaraderie and that being in that shed with my mates and having fun.
Nice. Hey, just to reiterate, Andy as well, just appreciate your time, also, and obviously it's very valuable. And mate, to be able to get someone like yourself, double World Cup winner, and one of our best All Blacks, legitimately one of our best sixes / DMXs to run around.
Here, man. Here. No
Thanks,
question.
mate.
No question, man.
Up the Vipers.
Up the Vipers.